Hey guys, Victor here coming at you again with another Tearlament deck profile, and today's focus is going to be on Tearlament post-Duelist Nexus, which means we're going to be playing some synchron cards, some synchro shenanigans, which should be pretty fun. But just before we start, I just wanted to make you guys aware that for this specific version, I've pretty much decided to just completely ignore Kashtira and just focus on seeing what does and what doesn't work. So you're going to be seeing like a lot of bricks. And I recently went to a local, so I have like a better idea of like how the cards play and how they interact with each other. So I'll try to explain that more like as we go through the deck profile. But with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into it. Now, as far as like the tier lineup goes, it's standard as always. You're going to be playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira, 2 Tearlaments Reinoheart, and then 1 of each fusion. So the 1 Scheiren, the 1 Havnis, and the 1 Merrli. Not much to say, pretty much ideal ratios for everything. Sometimes you can make an argument for playing 3 Reinoheart, sometimes 2 is better. It's honestly up to you and personal preference. I think for right now 2 is probably just fine, but you could definitely make an argument for 3 like I said. And then to go with those, you have your King of the Swamps, of course. This is going to be your main bridge into, being able to fusion summon cards like your Rule Colossus and your Kaleido Heart, as well as other cards like Grapha, and, just solid card that we have to play because Kit Colossus is no longer with us. Then we have the Ishizu cards being Kelbek, Agido, Keldo, and Mudora. So, whatever. You have to play them. Sometimes you can cut the Mudora, but I think right now it's honestly fine. I mean, it's weird, right? Because obviously Kashtira is the best deck, and there are times where just the Ishizu shufflers are just breaks and they don't do anything against that deck. But you'll also sometimes find yourself playing its other decks, such as Dragon Link or Striker or Sword Soul or even like a Mirror Match. And just there's so many decks that still rely on their graveyard. So cards like Mudora and Keldo can just be really helpful in helping you control and maintain momentum. Not to mention it also helps you get back your resources, which is really important in this deck because every resource does matter. Then we're still going to be playing the Destiny Hero engine just because I really like it. But after today, I don't really know if I still want to play it just because it does somewhat conflict. Like, you have some benefits, but a lot of the times they just don't mesh really well with like the synchro aspect of the deck. So we're playing the 2 malicious, plus I decided to go with the 1 denier again, mainly because this deck likes to abuse cross sheep. And when we have the denier and we have the malicious, that means we can get to cards such as cross sheep a lot more easily without having to invest a lot of our other more valuable resources. And it's just a really cool, fun engine that just helps you keep your foot on the gas in order to just continue to combo through your opponent's plays. Then after that, we're just normal stuff. Diviner of the Herald. I only like the 1. Sometimes 2 can be made an argument for. You can do like a lot of things with the ratios in these decks, as like you may have noticed by now, as there are countless variants of Tearlament, whether it's like Shaddolls or the D heroes, or even like Adventure Synchro, which is going to be a lot more popular thanks to the release of Duelist Nexus with Revolution Synchron. But honestly, I think 1 is fine because you don't really want to rely on it too much. But if you do have it, it's just a fantastic bomb type of a card that can get your plays going. And then it can also like bait out hand traps very easily, like Ash Blossom or Imperm, which sometimes do end up hurting this deck. We're still playing the 1 Destrudo because I like Destrudo. It gives you a lot of flexibility with your plays, as you can synchro, exease, fusion, pretty much do whatever you want with it. And something that I tossed back in that I had previously cut is Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. So when it comes to Blackwing Zephyros the Elite, previously I was using it to return cards such as like my Tearlaments Kashtira to be able to use them again later on during my opponent's next turn or during my next turn or whatever. But thanks to the release of this card, Revolution Synchron, which we play 2 of, you can do like a lot of really cool and cute plays with this, where you can like bounce the Synchron, then synchro with Zephyros and the Synchron into Ancient Fairy, and just do some kind of nonsense like that. But I'm going to be doing a combo video actually, which is something that I've never done, later on in the week after this video is posted. So make sure to subscribe to be tuned into that, because I'm going to be showcasing like a lot of the new stuff that Tearlament is actually able to do thanks to the release of cards such as Revolution Synchron, which just adds like a completely new dimension to this deck. Because before we were able to synchro summon, right? But typically all we ever did was end on Baron to Floor, Or in like my case, sometimes I played Tearlaments Dragster, right? Because any monster that's level 6 or lower plus Destrudo is a level 7, so you have like a free negate. But with this, we can go even further beyond and just, you know, it's just such a cool card. And honestly, like, I really feel like I should be playing it at 3 just because it's one of those types of cards that you almost always want to see in your hand just because the flexibility that it offers you is just invaluable. But 2 is fine, honestly. You don't have to go to 3, but it does help a lot. And then I still play one more monster, being Jet Synchron. If I had the 3rd Revolution, I'd probably cut this. But it's still nice for what it can do, right? Because, like, in theory, Jet Synchron will be able to get rid of key cards like the Malicious, like your Shizu monsters, or your Trivikarmas, or just, you know, anything that you don't want in your hand and you prefer in the graveyard. Jet Synchron can do that, but from what I've seen, it doesn't really happen all that often. Yeah, it's not really consistent enough to warrant it, but, you know, it's still a cool card, and it does, much like the rest of this deck, does offer you a lot of flexibility with the way that you can make your plays. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can head on over to the spells and traps. Now, for the spells and traps, the ratios don't really change all that much. It's pretty standard across all boards, if I'm being honest. So we're going to be starting off with our 3 planets. You have to play 3. If you play the Kashtira engine, being, you know, like the pressured planet race off with like the Kashtira Fenrir's, then you can like make an argument for like a 2-2 line where you play 2 Primeval planet Perlereinos and 2 raid slots. But I don't really want to like invest my time into testing the Kashtira stuff just because, let's be honest, after the dominant performance that Kashtira has had at our previous World Championship qualifiers and previous YCSs, that deck is not going to exist by the time like our next big event rolls around, or it shouldn't exist if Konami knows what they're doing, which, you know, is a 50-50 toss-up. But yeah, I'd rather invest into the future of things that are less or more likely to happen, which is Kashtira being hit, but all these other cards being available for us to abuse and use. So yeah, 3 planets. I still really like 3 Scream just because it's probably one of the best cards to open up with, especially if you're like a Reinoheart or just any Tearlament monster, because you mill 3 more cards, and it happens during your turn, and then again during your opponent's turn. It lowers their opponent's monsters by 500 attack, which makes your monsters a lot more difficult to be, you know, dealt with. It floats into trap cards, being sulliek or Meta Noise, Crime, whatever you may be playing. But yeah, this is always one of those cards that you want to open just because of like how resilient it makes your deck, especially since there's a lot of people that are playing cards such as like Droll and Lockbird right now, for example. And if you get hit by Droll in this specific version, a lot of the times your turn can just straight up end because there are a lot of search cards. So if you're able to have something like Scream plus like a tier monster to be able to trigger to mill 3 during your turn and your opponent's turn, you're still going to be able to fight back. But you don't have to play 3. Like I said, all these ratios are always being able to like conform and fit to something else or whatever you may need. And after that, we're playing 2 Foolish Burial Goods. I went back to 2. I don't know. I think it's fine. It basically reads, this card becomes any tier spell or trap card in the grave. So you can send sullieks, you can send Trivikarmas, you can send Screams, you can send Tearlament Grief if you play that. It just has like a lot of really cool utility, and it's actually one of the few ways that you can actually play through Droll or make it so that it doesn't hurt as much, because what you do is you just activate Foolish Burial Goods, and then from here, depending on your hand, if you send a sulliek, then you'll be able to search out for your Tearlaments Kashtira. If they draw you, no big deal, you're still gonna be able to play. Or if your hand is pretty much already set up, you can send like the Trivikarma and wait a bit, especially if you already have like the Primeval planet in your hand, right? So you activate Primeval planet on resolution, they draw you, you can chain your Trivikarma, and then from there you either add a Scream or Tearlaments Grief, and you just, or if you already have those, you can just add Tearlaments sulliek, and you know, to be able to set it during your turn, and then you just use it on your opponent's turn. And you have a lot of really cool applications that you can do with this card, and I really enjoy it. And then after that, we have just a bunch of one-of fusion spells. So we have the Poly for our King of the Swamps, Foolish Burial, Tearlaments Grief, Terraforming, and then lastly, I opted to play 1 Tuning. So this card's really weird because it seems like a card that you'd want to play at 3, right? Because it gives you insta access to your synchron monsters, being your, you know, your evolution synchrons or your jet synchrons. And then in addition to that, it mills 1 card. And I don't know if you noticed, but this deck loves to mill. So I don't know, it's really cool. But like I said, because of the fact that Draw and Lockbird is still really prevalent in this format, I don't know if it's the greatest, because there's a lot of other cards that you'd much rather use, like your Primeval planets, and in order to, you know, get that search off guaranteed. And then if you get hit by draw, this card's just dead in your hand. So I don't want to rely on it too much, but you can definitely make a case for playing like 3 of, especially if you're playing like a more dedicated synchro based version of this deck. But yeah, that's it for the spells. Then we can just cover the traps really briefly because we don't play many. We played 2 Tearlaments sulliek and the 1 Trivikarma. I dropped Meta Noise just because, like I said, I'm not respecting Kashtira anymore, and that was the only reason I was still playing that deck, or that card in this deck. Mainly because, like, if you go first and you have the Meta Noise, you just book their first monster and then you win the game. But a lot of the times I lose the die roll anyways, like I've previously stated on this channel. So something like that doesn't really happen all that often. I've instead opted to move it to the side for when I can guarantee that I go first. You know, I just put it back into the main and then blah, 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 you know the rest. But yeah, that's the main deck. Should be 40 cards like always. And now we can finally move on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we actually did get some really cool new cards that out of like Duelist Nexus that we can abuse. But I'll save those for last. So for now, we're going to start off with the Xyz being Time Thief Redoer. Just another really cool card. This is going to be actually one of your main ways that you can play through Bestials, because Bestials, for those of you that don't know, are quick effects only when you control a monster. So if you're like starting off really slow, say you have like a Scheiren plus any other level 4 and a King of the Swamp in the graveyard, if you want to play around a Bestial, you just make Time Thief Redoer first, you banish the Redoer, you send your Scheiren, and then because you have no monsters on the field, your Scheiren will be able to activate safely in order to special summon something like Tearlaments Reinoheart, which can prevent you from getting hit by Bestials, which are also, much like Draw and Lockbird, being played rampantly through this format, especially with how popular decks like Dragon Link are once again. But, you know, still like a really solid card. Then the only other Xyz we play is Beatrice. Because we play the Destiny Hero engine, Beatrice is a must-have, and Beatrice is, you know, it gets you literally any card that you want because you just attach one and then you foolish, and our graveyard is basically a second hand pretty much all the time, just because everything floats, everything triggers. You just send whatever the situation calls for, you know. Sometimes you want to synchro summon, so you send a Destrudo. Sometimes you also want to synchro summon for something else, so you send Revolution Synchron. Sometimes you just want to bounce back your card, so you send Zephyros. Or if you want to like search for a specific Tearlaments monster, you send sulliek. You can just do literally anything with this card. I just absolutely love it. But, and this is a big but, since I said earlier that the synchron stuff doesn't really mesh well with the Destiny Hero stuff from what I've experienced, I might honestly just end up cutting this engine altogether and, you know, just fitting in more synchro monsters or just other cards, because I don't know, it's a little too bricky for my liking. Like, I know we enjoy playing on chance, but we want to make our luck as successful as often as possible, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's it for the Xyz monsters. I don't play Zeus because I don't really enjoy it. I don't think you'll often have enough materials to actually make it effective. And then next for the links, I only play 2 links again. We have the Cross Sheep, which helps you with your versatile plays, being able to bring back any level 4 monster. Because as long as like a fusion monster points to it and the monster's summoned, whatever, you know, and there's a lot of level 4 and under monsters in our graveyard that are going to be really effective to bring back. And yeah, it's really cool what you can do with this card, and things like Revolution Synchron, Zephyros, Diviner of the Herald, you name it. And then we're playing 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. I want to cut this card just because no one's really playing tower decks, or at least you would think that, right? Except for the fact that Perlereino is a deck, and Perlereino is unaffected if it has like, what is it, 5 or more materials, which is very easy for that card to achieve. And yeah, but the thing about Perlereino, right, is that if a Perlereino player is good, they won't just like shotgun their effects. Instead, they'll tend to like hold on to their resources, or you hold on to the materials on for their Nor, and then save it for their next turn or during the end phase when they can for sure, you know, try to game you. So you just catch them off guard with one of these. So, you know, you typically make your Cross Sheep, then you get the materials out, and then they almost never expect something like Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, but we play it, and then you catch them off guard for game 1, and it should, you know, wrap that game up easy peasy after that. But it's not always going to happen. because, you know, sometimes, like I said, only the really good players hold their effects to make sure that their monster is always going to be unaffected. You will, you know, sometimes run into the more subpar players, putting it kindly, that'll just shotgun their effects every single time and then lose the immunity that Perlereino has. But yeah, still a really solid card, you know, just to be able to break those unbreakable boards. Then, after that, we have a bunch of fusions. So we're playing Mudragon of the Swamp, Garura, Wings of Resonant Life, Predaplant Dragostapelia, Super Poly targets if you play Super Poly, but they're all also extremely easy to summon in this deck because we do play, you know, Havnis, Merrli, Scheiren, which can bring these out very easily. And with some of the lines, even Garura nowadays, right? Previously, you'd have to be really unlucky to be able to summon this. And by really unlucky, I mean you have to mill like multiple tier names with one of them already being used. But with one of like the combo lines that we can go through, which I will go over in the other video, it's very easy to bring this out and then, you know, by extension bringing out Beatrice and stuff like that. But yeah, still really good guards. Play the one Dangerous because this is what gives us the auto Beatrice. You know, just fuse any tier with a Destiny Hero monster. Then you use Dangerous effect, discard a card, send Malicious, and then you just, you know, exes with the Malicious and the Dangerous. Then you play the one Graph of Fusion because, you know, it's a good card. You play the one Rokolos and the one Kaleidoheart, you know, also good cards. And then for the final fusion, we're playing Guardian Chimera. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about this because if you're going first, this card is worthless, like straight up. And if you're going second, a lot of the times, you're only making this if you're playing it's like a trap heavy deck. Which, you know, sometimes does happen. Like, you know, there are a lot of players, especially like at the local level, that like playing their trap heavy decks, whether it's like Trap Tricks, Fluounderies, Labyrinth, you know, things of that nature, where Chimera really gets to shine because it's going to become untargetable, it's going to destroy cards, it's going to draw a card, you know, bing, bang, boom, whatever. But I don't know. A lot of the times I just almost never summon it. Instead, I tend to just discard Poly for fodder, whether it's for like Jet Synchron or Dangerous, because it's just not all that great if I'm being honest. But that's just me. I know some people are just in love with this card and think it's the best card in the extra deck, but it's always so meh for me in my experience. I'd rather just probably side this and only put it in when I'm going second, if I'm being honest. So yeah, and that's it for the fusions, and then we have our synchros. So we play Baron de Fleur, you know, standard, and then we're going to be playing Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is going to be our main Revolution Synchron target, as, you know, it's a level 7, so you just have, as long as you have Revolution Synchron with any level 4, you can make this, and then, you know, with Revolution Synchron's effect, it'll come back, and then in turn, it'll bring out this. So this is Visas Amritara, which is a brand new card from Duelist Nexus, and what this card is it's literally Trivikarma but on legs, because it searches out any spell or trap from your deck that has Visa Starfrost in its text. So what can you search this? You can search out everything that Trivikarma searches, so that means your Primeval planet Perlereino. You can search out your Scream, your Grief, your Sullieks, and you can also search out your Trivikarmas with Visas Amritara. And I don't know if you know this, but Trivikarma has a second effect where if you have a Visa Starfrost in your monster zone, which this is always treated as Visa Starfrost while it's on the field, you can negate one monster, and then you can have Visa Starfrost gain half that monster's attack. So this basically isn't a brick anymore because you can search it out and it just becomes like another negate, and then on your next turn, you're just going to be able to banish this and get another card. But yeah, it's honestly really cool what it can do, but you don't really make it all that often unless you have like the Revolution Synchron play, which, you know, can pop up if you decide to play like more like a higher number of level 4s and Revolution Synchrons or more tunings. But when it does go off, it's really, really cool what it can do. And then it also has like another effect where you can destroy one monster on the field, and then all your synchro monsters gain 800 attack until the end of the turn. But it's not really that important. Most of the time, you're just using that effect to clear something off so you can fusion summon for something else. However, in addition to being able to search and clear your board, there's one other really big benefit that you can get off of your Visas Amritara, and it's a tuner. So, typically, the only other level 2 that we play is, you know, Tearlaments Merrli. But it's really easy to get to Merrli in this deck and just leave it on the field, whether it's like through the Ancient Fairy Dragon special summon or Tearlaments Grief, or even our Cross Sheep, right? We can go Cross Sheep Reborn or Merrli that's in our graveyard. And then you combine the Merrli with your Visas, and then you make a free Baron. Well, I say free, but it's not really free because you have to invest your resources. And then that also feeds into the play that I mentioned earlier of, being able to get one Tearlament monster, which is always going to be Merrli, plus another Tearlament monster to be able to special summon Garura from your extra deck, to recycle your resources. So there's just like a lot of really cool things that you can do with this deck nowadays that, I don't know, I really want to experiment more with and see what does and what doesn't work. But for now, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to be on the lookout for that test video that I'm going to be posting sometime later this week. And until then, I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!